Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Domino. On this episode, we talk with founder and CEO of Dr. Rissy's Writing and Marketing and GenZ Publishing, Morissa Schwartz. She is the founder and CEO of Dr. Rissy's Writing and Marketing and GenZ Publishing. DrRissysWriting.com is a marketing and writing company ranked number 1 in PR and top 10 in social media and SEO for New York and New Jersey on Thumbtack. GenZ Publishing is a publishing company that has produced 15 Amazon bestsellers. She holds a doctorate in literature from Drew University and has a master's in communications. She has been featured on Forbes, MTV, and is a best-selling author herself. Enjoy this interview.
Thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure.
So before we get into your life and what you do, I want to know, the last couple of years with COVID did quite a thing to everyone, and I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you go about things now, business and otherwise.
Yeah, well, amazingly, I always worked remotely. I always worked from home. I started my business kind of out of necessity. I was a full-time student, and, a typical 9-to-5 job wouldn't work with my school schedule. So because of that flexibility and because I had it set up like that, COVID didn't affect my work style all that much. I always worked this way. The way that it most affected me is that other people start working the same way that I do. So, whereas maybe 3.5 years ago I would say, hey, you guys want to Zoom? Nobody knew what I was talking about. Now pretty much everybody does. So that's the biggest, I think, change is that a lot more people started working the same way that I do, which created a bit more competition in the arena. There are a lot more people working remotely, but there's also more opportunities that way. So I also met a lot more people that I can collaborate with. So it's been interesting.
I see on paper exactly what you do, but I want to get a better handle on this. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. And one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I would say that I do 360 marketing, which means that I use the power of social media, search engines, ads, and PR to get our clients in front of their ideal audience. So think of anything that you see online. Somebody had to make that and put it out there, and my job is to help them to make their content and put it out there so that you could see it.
So talk to me a little bit about how you got into writing, how writing became your passion. We all have these seeds and we all have these beginnings in our lives. Go back to when you were young. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and how this all started for you.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the 6th generation of my family to be born and raised in Woodbridge, New Jersey. When I was a little kid, like a toddler, my father would read to me every single night, and I kind of knew I had a little spark there that I really enjoyed stories. I had my first national article published when I was 11 in Discovery Girls magazine, which was like the highlight of my young life. But I really knew when I went to high school, I went to a biomedical science academy. I was being pushed in the direction of becoming a medical doctor, and I caught myself constantly rushing through my labs and my science work in favor of writing and editing. At the time, I had actually started on Fiverr freelance editing for people, and I liked doing that so much more than I enjoyed science. So that was when I realized I wanted to go in this direction, and I went to college, became an English major, then went for my master's in communication, my doctorate in literature, and it was pretty much cemented. Like that's my thing. That's what I enjoy more than most other things.
So when you were in the 3rd grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
In 3rd grade, I wanted to own my own dancing school that had a dollar store attached to it, so I suppose you could say entrepreneur.
Excellent. So are you happy with how everything turned out? Are you happy with what you're doing these days?
Very much so, yeah.
So as a writer, what was the story? What was it that you wrote where you felt like you had arrived? You had gotten to a place where this was a serious thing for you and you etched a story that was really good. Yeah,
I would go back to my first national story when I was 11, but still it was really the first time I ever had something that a lot of people read. I wrote a story about my experience with Lyme disease, and I started getting letters back from little girls saying that they read the article and how much it meant to them, and that they were, some of them were struggling with similar issues. Some could just, empathize or sympathize. And that really showed me like, wow, people can read your writing. It can impact them. I want to keep doing this. So I started working on my first book, and I wrote a memoir when I was like 20. And I think that was my big culmination of, I got to write some of my life stories, and that was pretty cool.
We all have a flashpoint with ours and books. What was the book for you, the first book that you read that really parted the curtains and made you either fall in love with reading or want to be a writer?
That's a great question. Well, I guess when I was a little kid, like a toddler, I loved Dr. Seuss's Fish Out of Water, where this little boy basically overfeeds his fish until it can no longer even fit inside a swimming pool. That was a favorite that my father and I read. But I would say in my adult life, I read this recently, actually during COVID. I read Ishmael, and I'm trying to remember the name of the author, Ishmael. Dan something, I can't remember. By Daniel Quinn. I read that during COVID in conjunction with *Sapiens* and Life Missing Operation Manual by Tom Shadyac. And the three of those books together just created this beautiful trilogy of modern philosophy that really shaped the way that I see things, and definitely help you to get through times like COVID and any other times that our world experiences that aren't the easiest.
So who's been a consistent role model or kind of a hero for you in your life that's motivated you?
Oh, definitely my parents. I know I mentioned my father a few times, with his reading, but they have always been an amazing support system. They've always motivated me and been just incredibly kind and supportive. I also have had some teachers that were great. I've spoken before, and he actually just passed away last week. My English teacher in high school was incredible. He had a great impact on me as well. And then as far as people, I actually, when I got Forbes 30 Under 30, they asked me, who was your dream mentor? And I said Jack White, because he is an artist who I've always really looked up to, and he inspires me with pretty much everything that I do, because he doesn't just think outside the box. He realizes there is no box and does a bunch of wild stuff that no other rock star would think of. He's, more than a rock star, and that's definitely inspired me.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet and spend a little time with them, who would it be? Who would you love to meet?
That I would transplant my Jack White story and put that there. It would be Jack White.
Yeah, I didn't want to be presumptive. So let me ask you this. Let's say you have a dream tonight. You go back to a very younger part of your life, before all of this began for you, and you could give your younger version a piece of advice based on what you've learned and what you've lived in your life. What would you tell your young version?
It would definitely be not to worry. I think that one of really the biggest struggle that a lot of us have is internal, thinking that the worst can and will happen. And I would tell my young self not to worry, that everything works out. Even the things that don't seem that great will have a positive impact one way or another.
What is it that motivates you every day that you wake up? We all have things that we look forward to, things that we want to do. But what's the biggest motivator for you each day to do your job?
That's a good question. I think it's really just I enjoy it. I get to do what I want to do. I'm not doing something that I loathe or dislike. I think this is what I do. It's something I would probably do even if it didn't pay my bills. Like I like that I get to be creative and write, and I make a lot of social media videos and things like that. I would do that even if I weren't paid for them. So it's just something that I really enjoy. On
the other end of that, at the end of the day, when you get to the place where you're done with your day and you look back at what you did, how do you quantify a successful day? What's a good day for you after you've lived your work life? Yeah, usually a good day looks like happy clients, happy team. If I have clients that say, wow, we got these great results, and my team says, man, look at what we did. This is really good. And, I see some social media posts that did really well, and some PR opportunities. I'm, watching myself or a client on, the Today Show or Forbes or Entrepreneur or any of the other places where we've gotten somebody featured. When I see that, I'm super happy. What is the best client response that you've ever gotten? Best fan letters, so to speak. Yeah, that's a good question. I've had a lot of happy clients. The one that stands out the most is I wrote a few white papers and ebooks for HP,
I usually work with startups, but I actually was working with a startup that was working with HP, and I wrote their white paper, and the president of marketing of HP actually emailed me and said, wow, this ebook is a game changer. And just the fact that somebody who is, a well-respected professional like that at a big company said that really meant the world to me. So that was one that really stands out.
So, Morissa, everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your readers, clients, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, well, I would like to think that I'm a very kind, empathetic person who uses humor in everyday life to make the best of situations. I like to be very positive, and I like to think critically and use my own mind to be a leader and make the most positive impact that I can.
So if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, get your writing, hire you, where's the best place for anybody to go out there?
Well, I'm on social media pretty much everywhere as Morissa Schwartz, Morissa with an O. And I also have my website, drrissywriting.com. You can feel free to reach out to me, DMs, contact message. My name is very rare with the O, so if you even just Google Morissa with an O, Schwartz, you'll find me and reach out.
Yeah, that's a good niche to have for sure. Morissa, thank you for opening up, taking time out. I really appreciate it. Good luck with everything and have a great new year.
Of course. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.